Hey, everybody, welcome to the Approved Perspective podcast powered by Approved Social. We're glad to have you join our podcast. And today we have a very special guest.
I don't know about that special.
One of my longtime buddies, Christopher Leclerc, and his company, Territory 6.
Yes, sir.
Happy to have you here, buddy.
Thank you.
What's going on in your world these days?
Well, this is the podcasting world's a little fresh.
You got quiet all of a sudden.
We got quiet.
We clicked the button and
The cameras
the
are
volume
rolling.
got quiet. So no, we've been talking about like stuff all day long.
Yeah, the funny
Conversations
thing is,
that every single time we're both like, this should be on the podcast.
well, let me just say right off in the front, I've done so much film in my life, but I've never almost ever been on camera. And I feel like I'm on web camera right now. It's very
not
similar.
even a good quality camera.
And I'm like, all of a sudden I'm clamming up and I feel like I'm
Yeah.
in front of camera, like I have to be talent all of a sudden. Used to
So-
directing people like me.
So I got to bring up a story that's pretty funny here because I think you might laugh at this or you might not. Do you remember when I called you a videographer?
It was an insult.
This was what? How long ago? A couple of years ago?
Not even that long.
Like,
It felt like 6 months
a couple
ago.
of years ago in Austin or something. Yeah. And so how like just I don't know your industry very well. And like
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't
okay.
mean it as an insult.
Oh, I don't.
but
I
how
just laugh
funny
at it because I
was.
can tease you about it. But I do find it hilarious when people call, I'd say us as like filmmakers.
And you would,
Videographers.
I think that I would call you a director producer, right? Like you're a DP. You're a DP. Is that correct?
Well, we
Is
can.
that the right term? DP,
Well, we just mentioned 3 terms:
DP, director.
director, producer, DP.
They're different
I
terms.
think they're all different, but I think that as filmmakers, we all tend to play multiple hats,
Yeah.
and it kind of just depends upon the job and which hat I have to play.
Which hat do you prefer?
I prefer. I don't love. I produce as a means to get my work done.
Yeah, yeah.
But I wouldn't call myself a producer.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I do,
It's part of what you do.
but
It's not your favorite. It's not your skill set. Like
I'm more on the just give me in the creative zone.
Yeah.
So if I can shoot, if I can direct,
Mm-hmm.
and then work with a DP. Sometimes I love just to shoot, work with a different director, where I'm kind of like, I'm glad I'm not having to deal with talent. But sometimes the most fun is when you're shooting and directing and just in the flow state. And you're just rocking
you're telling
and
people
rolling.
what to do. You're like,
Yeah,
it's
you
like
got
the
the camera.
universe is around you, right?
Yes.
And I don't mean that in like an egotistical way, but maybe it is
Yeah.
a little bit. I don't know. You kind of have to have sort of that drive and that
Yeah.
personality to bring in so many different other strong personalities. You're talking about actors who are pains in the
Yeah, and-
asses, right? Like probably, I'm not. Some of them are probably nice people, but I'm saying they have
Funny
their
stories.
own ego and things that get brought into it. And you're like the head coach, right?
So I had a funny story on that.
In a
one.
lot of situations.
I'm working with Viola Davis. And we're shooting an interview with her. We're doing some promo stuff for a film a friend of mine was making. And I'm right there, I'm shooting her. I'm like, camera's like right in her face. But I wasn't directing, I was just shooting at the time. And it was a moment because I have the camera right up to her, but the director wasn't telling her what we were doing. And so we were just shooting her, like getting B-roll of her face, just getting like pre-interview stuff. And she just says, "Oh, we're done here." And she walks off set.
She just says, "I'm done."
Yeah. And I was like, this is why you communicate with your actors and tell them what you're doing. Hey, this is what we're trying to do. Anyways.
This is what we're trying to accomplish today or for this project or whatever.
Yeah.
You got to be able to set the vision. I feel like a lot of people who are good football players, they think they can go coach football. They're not good head coach. Like a head coach is the person who has to be able to wrangle all the egos and keep the defensive line coach and the offensive line coach.
Yeah.
And they are the ones that actually go do the work for them, right? Like, but they have to be strategic at it. And a lot of times they're just so passionate about the game that they're not as strategic. The good coaches, I think, that you'll look at in the NFL and college, they're very strategic. They're very good at kissing ass because they've got to stay,
fascinating,
with the owners and all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot to it. But I think that's sort of how I look at it, at least.
Yes.
Could be totally wrong. Maybe that connects or not.
Probably.
So
It's kind of like the videographer.
I'm sorry that
We were just like
I'm sorry that I
videographer
offended
comment.
you. I'm sorry that I offended you. Chris is one of my best
Friday,
buddies in the whole
right?
world. It is a Friday, by the way, people. So we are a little bit more relaxed. If you are in a business that you're not able to wear a t-shirt and shorts every once in a while, maybe you're in the wrong business.
So I wear a tank top 99% of the
Just saying.
time. And the other day, I had a Zoom call with like, I forget who it was, with marketing person. It was a producer. And I kind of forgot this person was semi-important, but I just showed up with my tank top on the Zoom call. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I said, I'm just like working.
Yeah.
They're like, we love it. They're like, I just talked to a dude in a suit 10 minutes ago. I'm not talking to you in a
Yeah.
tank top.
Well, and so that's an interesting thing to bring up because you probably, in your first few engagements with clients, you didn't show up like that.
No, and this
Like, you
was like
probably
not
would
a
have
client.
never
This
done
was just
that.
like a marketing person I was talking to.
But as you become more confident and more skilled in what you do, people aren't looking at you for what you're wearing,
Well,
right? I mean, maybe they're looking for brands or whatever, but I'm saying they're looking for your
yeah,
skill.
100%. But then there's the whole Hollywood culture, which I do not really follow or
See, that's a
attend to.
different world for me. I mean,
Where
I sort of
it's all
understand
about,
it, but, like,
you know, those are not my clients. People that kind of care about your vibe, the jewelry you're wearing,
What are you
you're wearing YSL
wearing?
boots and
Yeah,
clothing. It's
yeah.
like BS. So I just, Amazon Basics. That's where it's at.
you Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
you know?
And the thing is, it's kind of, as long as you just wear the same thing every day, you just don't have to think about what you're wearing.
Oh, I kid you not, yesterday, swear to God, yesterday I was telling Rebecca, I was like, I would like to find my like top 10 shirts and buy like 4 of them each.
Yeah. $7 each.
And
wear
then-
them every day. Every day.
Probably more
This
than
is
that,
the
'cause she
nicest
gets me
shirt I
Lulus,
own. This is the
so they're
nicest shirt I
expensive.
own.
She gets me Lulu, so they're expensive. But but I was like, I'd love to be able to go. I've got like 2 pairs of shorts that work with that shirt, and you know, and just go in there, boom, done. Because I already like it. I know it fits. So that's
It's
it.
this, a dichotomy of a choice, and it's the same thing with like food. If you have to decide every single day what you're going to eat, it's too much work.
But you do have to decide every single.
Yeah, but if you just eat the same thing every day,
That's true.
you don't have
That
to
is
think
true.
about it. You're like, oh, what do you eat for lunch? Well, I'm going to eat the same thing I ate yesterday. What do you eat for dinner? Same thing I had yesterday.
What are you eating for food these days?
Wow,
Let's really get into it.
Not as if we even need to be talking about
And then we're
this.
gonna get back into digital, but let's get really
Well,
into it.
it's like going to the grocery store. Like you buy the same thing every week.
Yeah.
So I have eggs every single day
Sure.
for lunch,
Yeah.
and
At lunch.
At lunch.
Because you're fasting.
I don't have
Okay.
breakfast.
Okay.
Coffee for breakfast. Maybe I'll have breakfast once a week. Depends. Eggs, and then I have either like a little chicken sausage in there with avocado.
So you're talking high protein, high fat, low carb.
Yeah, and it keeps me
Sugars?
going.
Any sugars?
Yeah,
You
today I
have
put a little
you
honey
don't have any
in
sweet-
there.
You're not really a sweet tooth guy, right?
No,
Like,
no,
more
no.
of a
We got-
salty,
oh, yeah,
savory guy.
Put a little
I get
honey
it,
in there.
yeah.
Put a little lime,
Ah,
a little salt and pepper.
making your own lemonade.
Yeah. Oh man, it put a little bowl.
Yeah.
And it takes like 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and you're good to go. It's like no.
So I
carb-
did that for a while, the lemonade fast thing.
Oh man,
Is that what you're
that's
talking
like
about?
16 years old,
That was
Chris.
bad. That was bad.
It's like when you're like
Why
16.
did they?
you're
Why
like,
did we do that? It's not like
Well,
we
because
needed
like
to lose
eating,
weight at that time.
drinking lemon water is healthy for
I think
you.
we all knew fasting was a good thing, and so we thought it was.
Yeah, and
we
you
thought it was
think
good.
it like you'll lose weight. All it is just like flavored wine.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So I want to give a little bit of background about you, and then I want you to fix whatever I mistakenly say. Okay. So Chris Leclerc is one of my best friends in the whole world, and
Same.
we have been friends since probably a trip, I think, to the Amazon, which there's like a whole deep level of history that we don't need to get into, but with our homeschooling and growing up together and traveling all over the world, we went to I think we went to Europe together as well.
Yeah.
I know we were in Peru, the Amazon rainforest. Like we've done
Yeah.
a lot of stuff together over the years. But I can confidently say that there are 2 people that I know of that I would say that I'm like connected to that are as skilled as Christopher Leclerc.
Thank you.
And I mean
Sir.
that 100% true. Like if you want to hire someone for a commercial or a short film for your newly launched program or your new company, like this is the guy
A little
to
sales
do that
pitch
kind
here
of
by
stuff.
Preston. Thank you, sir.
I'm just telling you, territory6.com. Is it T6?
Well, we're
Spell it out.
It's territory6.com, but then
www.
we're
You gotta get it.
yeah, well, you have to do the www. But I'm trying to push it everyone just calls it T6. So my kind of
T6.
the new brand
I like
release for
T6.
2024 is T6. We'll spell out for the website, but then everything will be T6. We have a new logo.
Logo. I saw that. The
Yeah, it's
teaser
fresh.
on that video. Pretty excited.
Fresh.
I actually noticed. I was like, that's different.
It's just a little tighter.
It's a little different.
Well, it's
is it
funny.
a different font? Or is it...
I had a friend of mine. I texted him. Oh, Josiah Jost. Shout out to Josiah.
Oh, hello, Josiah.
I texted him. I just threw together some logo in Photoshop.
Is he a logo guy? Is that what
Yeah,
he does?
he's logo. Yeah.
Josiah, why don't you come on the podcast?
Yeah, he would be a good guy to
We'd
chat
love to
with.
have you, man.
And he goes, I have an idea for you. I'm like, great. He goes, well, give me 5 minutes. So he like sketches it up. And it was one of those moments where you're like, you get paid whatever amount of money for like 5 minutes of work because he's been doing it for 20 years. But he was a kind friend. He says, you owe me a beer. So I was like, perfect. Thanks.
I can do
got
that.
you,
I
bro.
can do a beer. I can even do a nice
got
beer,
you.
like
Exactly.
a whole craft. Okay, that's cool. So exceptionally. Also, you're focused. Like you're very focused on the work that you do. I have seen you literally go 24 hours and just be like, I got to go get something done, and you're working on a project. But then you take time off, so you do have. I feel like, from my perspective, a good like work-life balance where you go, I'm all on right now. I'm going to do this project. I'm going to go make 50,000, 6 figures, whatever on this project, and then I'm going to take a month and go do my own project. Let's talk a little bit about like the balance there, because I think most business owners get caught up in this like
it's good.
what I call like the revenue roller coaster, where it's like, I think you've experienced that a little bit. I know I've experienced this a little bit, where you go out, you get a giant client, you land them, it takes a long time, you do all this work, then they pay you. Then you go do the work for them, and now you're not going out and getting more clients.
Right.
So you do all the work for them, you spend all this time and energy. That client now doesn't have another video to do for another year, right? And so now you're going, okay, well, what do? I got to go find more clients. And I haven't been because I'm working on this client.
Yep.
So there is a balance between like having systems and processes in place, which I think we'll get to in like 10 or 15 minutes, because that's something you're thinking about right now a lot, right?
Yeah, we'll chat about that.
That's
not
cool.
my
I think
strong
a lot of
suit,
people
but
get that.
We're trying to grow there.
We're figuring that out together. But what does that look like for you? And what tips would you share for somebody who's watching who might go, right now I'm spending 24 hours a day working on my business, and I need to know, am I going to have any relief? What do I do? Like what happens? What have you been able to do to balance this out?
We're all on a journey. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I sound like some wise person. I've just burned out multiple times. I feel like I burned myself out on purpose. But my earlier 20s, I would say, I feel like an old man saying that, but I was probably 24 or 25. I had never worked harder in my life.
And for all the single ladies out there, you're how old now?
We are in my 30s.
Did you say we?
We are.
We are. Okay. All right. 32.
33.
33. Okay, 33.
We're saying it's 2023, so
Okay.
90s
okay.
baby.
I bet.
So it was my first like very successful year.
Yeah.
And I think I was 24, and I worked my brain off. Made a ton of money that year, but I burnt myself out to death. And I was like, I don't want anything to do with this anymore. I don't know what to do. I'm not creative anymore. And so that started this launch of trying to figure out how to make it a little more sustainable, creativity at least, because so many of my projects, they take so much out of me because I'm putting my soul into creating. And a lot of the times it's like brain work, mostly it's brain work and physical work as well. But what I've learned in the past 3 years is if I can take a month off during the summer or more, if I can take 2 months off a year is when I'm most creative.
2 months. When you're taking 2 months off, are you literally taking a month off to do nothing? Because people are going to be like, wait a minute, how does he do that?
Well, I can figure it out.
How do you do it?
So
You make a bunch of money in a short period of time, and then you take a break.
peace out,
Right?
guys.
I've literally seen
for instance, this year, to give you an example,
Just deuce out
I had done
a couple weeks.
I think it was 4 or 5 projects back to back, and I was running the productions on them, shooting and directing, and I had put the time in to like make the money. So I made some money, and I was like, I'm done. I knew I was like, I'm going to work my butt off, then I'm going to take about a month off. So I think it was got back from Africa in end of July, got back on like the 3rd, and then took a whole month off. And I think I replied to a few emails. I lost a few jobs.
Yeah.
But
Well,
here's the thing.
That's okay.
I will say that month, I think it was like 3.5 weeks-ish. It wasn't like a proper month. The most beneficial 3 months of the whole year.
Yeah.
Because I was finally able to reset, not even have to think about work. And I love adventures, so I took a bikepacking trip in the Pacific Northwest, and it helped me to recharge and to figure out what's next and how to kind of attack the next challenge. And you're always evolving, you're always growing. So it helped me figure out what I'm trying to do with the business, how to go after new clients.
Right.
But as a result of that, I'm looking around, I come back, and all my friends are burnt out. And I'm like, guys, I got the perfect gift
I
for
feel
you.
great.
I was like, this is what you need to do. I said, go on an adventure, let nature take over and let it heal you, and then come back, and you're going to actually be more successful for your clients as a result of that. And I was just talking to a friend of mine, and he's like, I've taken like 1 day off this year, and I feel so burnt out. He goes, I just Googled what burnout feels like, and he's like, that's me. And I said, dude,
You have to Google what burnout feels like. Oh my God. You might not be burned out then. If you have to Google it,
dude.
you're still fine, bro.
you've got
Wait until you're a tired dad, okay? And then you'll know.
Then you wear the shirts. But where was I going with that? Burnout,
Yeah, you were
recharge.
talking
No,
to
I
friends,
said,
you're saying,
I
"Hey,
said,
this is
dude,
the
you're
plan I
actually
have."
not serving your clients well. I said,
Right,
what I've realized with time off, and a lot of the times, if I can take that month off during the beginning, a month in the middle of the year, and sometimes it's spread out depending upon my projects, or Christmas time and January, end of December is slow in the film production business. So
Slow for us.
everyone
too,
just kind of, so they just trickle back in after Christmas. So it's like 2 weeks off for Christmas, 2 weeks off after
Yeah.
Christmas. So it becomes your another month. So you're like, oh, there's 2 months of my year.
There you
So
go.
That's great.
Yeah. And
But,
that's actually a good time to take off.
Yeah,
I
and then
mean,
you know,
yeah.
instead of stressing at the time of year, to say, okay, this is actually just the flow of the business. Everyone's projects are slowly taking off. Like you're not going to be working because clients aren't spending money on projects right now. Some of them might, but I have sporadic years or January's busy.
Yeah, some new promotion.
Yeah, whatever it
happens,
is.
But pretty rare that businesses are really. They're not ramping. I mean, people think of like going into Christmas and the holidays, like people are ramping up. They are ramping up digital marketing in some ways and stuff, but it's just different. It's not the same. It's not what people expect. Like, oh, everybody's spending tons of money during that time. Yeah, they are, but there's also a lot of low efficiency too, because you're competing with so many people who are just pouring
Especially in the digital
money
marketing side, yeah.
into the marketplace of like ads and whatnot. So yeah,
But going back to this, I asked him, like, dude, you're actually not helping your clients. You're not being the most creative for them. So they're paying you a lot of money, but you're actually not delivering the best results because you're not allowing yourself to recharge and not having you have to think about work for a while. But even these fake vacations people take.
what do you mean?
Well, everyone has a different version of
Yeah,
recharging,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
Everyone has a different version of recharging. There's something about like pushing yourself as well.
You like to go on an adventure,
But I
like
think
to
everybody
explore.
needs an
Yeah.
adventure.
People, I think they don't know how to let go anymore. I
Yeah.
think people are so wound up in like the rat race and keeping up with the Joneses that they sort of trap themselves in this idea that instead of going and doing those adventures, which I should be doing with my family, my friends, and myself, I am going to look at what I need to get next in order to either not one up, but they're thinking about it like, oh, the Joneses have got a Range Rover. I freaking want a Range Rover now, And so they've got to now go, okay, how do I make money to do that?
here's the
And
thing.
then they're prioritizing that over those experiences.
But here's the thing: what people don't everyone wants to build their work resume in life, and it's great. We need to do those things. It's how we survive, how we work, but it's how we put food on the table. But we need to be building our experience resumes as well. And I think our experience resumes make us a better at work because you're not just grinding away. So instead of at the top of the year, you're saying, I always like to look at, say, what other experiences can I get in this year
Interesting.
so that I can become a more well-rounded person to the people I'm working with. And I feel like after I'm stacking those experiences throughout the year, I'm able to bring better ideas to the table and
Right.
fresher ideas and have clear visions of what I need to be doing. Because if you're working constantly, you don't have the time to let your brain kind of just like clear everything of all the clogs of the mess of work.
Yeah.
You just need to let it all go. Let the trees take it.
Well, and like it's proven, I can't remember what exactly it is, but they say that if you take I don't remember, a 90-second or 5-minute break every 20, 30 minutes, you're going to have more efficient time
Yeah.
worked if you do that than if you try to go, I'm gonna work for 2-3 hours and then take an hour break. Like that, you don't get as much, and then come back to it. You don't get as much efficiency there. So there's definitely something to saying I need to take little rests in the right amount of time to recuperate, to be better at what I do. Because otherwise I'm going to come into it frustrated, not thinking clearly, not giving myself all the opportunities to think about the options for this, especially in a high creative space like you're in. But when you talk about the digital world too, and you're creating content for us, like we got to think about if we're not being creative with how the headline looks and where an image is and where the CTA is and what the CTA is, then we might be missing out on conversion rate. We might be missing out on potential customers for our clients. And so the bottom line gets impacted. That's why Approved Social is there, to try to sort of eliminate those things. In your experience, when you come back from that, you said you lost clients during that time.
I didn't really lose it was just a couple emails that I missed because I was on a bike all day and I was late to the game. It was just small. It was like,
but sometimes do you find that makes you sort of like almost more wanted by them? Because a lot of times when we hold fast on like, I will talk to you between 9 and 5 and I have a meeting after this and I have this, that, like, you're showing your clients or showing other people that your time is important, that your time is valuable. Do you see people go, oh, he's taking his time for himself? Like,
well, I think
this is good or is this bad?
People want to work with people that are doing interesting things as well. And the more that you can make yourself a more interesting person by traveling, by taking adventures, whatever that outlet is for that person, people invest in people.
Right.
And so when my clients find out that my lifestyle is whatever that is, they find it way more interesting and they're like inspired by it. That's what I've found.
Yeah.
And where they're like, oh, this is cool. Like they're like, oh yeah, Chris is off. They're like, he's off grid for the next 3 weeks.
And if he didn't,
and the
take
cool
off,
things is
then
I
he
tell
wouldn't
them
be as
like
good.
this project I was working on, I was like, hey guys, I'm like MIA for the next 3 weeks, but if you want to work with me, I start to be available on the 29th of August,
Right, like,
whatever it is. And guess what? They like working with me, and I'm a trusted person, and I'm able to push that, and then not have to go to the other person because they invest in me, and they're like, oh, hey, this is important. If we're going to keep working with him, he's got to take his time.
I've always wondered this about like you, and specifically when you're giving pitches to people, because you are like the creative sort of, right? Like if you're hiring me, I'm creating digital strategy and I have a copywriter and a designer and I have the team that fills it all out for me. And I was giving you a compliment, not saying that you're lazy.
No.
The way you do it is like you dedicate your time to be all there all the time. Not all the time, but you know what I mean, for a certain amount of time for that project. And then when your time is off, you check out.
MIA.
And I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't do. Business owners will, I was talking to another guy the other day and he goes, hey, my wife and I work in the business together. How do y'all do it? And I said, it's because at the end of the day, like we stop talking about work. So like 5, 6, we got to go. That's it. And then we'll text, if we think of something that we need to talk about, text it to each other or Slack it to each other so that we remember to talk about it the next day about work.
That's interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And
It's like a boundary you've created.
you have to,
cool.
that's what we're talking about. We're basically
like a
talking about boundaries and recuperation. And if you don't enforce those boundaries, your client won't respect you as much. They devalue you. When you respond to somebody at 9, 10 o'clock at night, they start to expect that you're going to do that all the time for them. And you go, nope, sorry, my time is valuable. I do that tomorrow when I get time.
I stop responding after 5 o'clock on Friday.
Yeah.
Unless it's like an active project that you're working on.
Sure.
That, like needs your attention over the weekends.
Well, and you sometimes might get booked to do something for the weekend,
completely,
right? Like
yeah.
you're going to go shoot it whenever. I think one of the most important things that I've learned over the last, really pretty recently, is if you're going to have a conversation with somebody, I'm going to have a meeting directly. I want to set a back end time so that when that time is up, especially with like a client, I got to go. Like I got another meeting that I'm attending right now. I got to get off this call and I got to go to that call because they go, this guy's time is important.
That's cool.
I'm going to be prompt. I'm going to show
like
up
that.
on time. I'm going to communicate to him. So the client starts to respect me and they start to give me what I need from them. You know what I mean? So and I was talking to one of my employees about this and I was like, hey, you need to learn to set those boundaries. It's hard because you're sort of maybe a lower position than I am compared to them. You're not necessarily peers, but you still have time that's valuable. They're still coming to you for time that's valuable because of us and what we built. And I think that's a big
really
one that people miss out on. They think I'm providing value by responding at 9:00 at night or by going late in that call, by giving them an extra 10, 20, 30 minutes. I'm being better and I'm going to keep that client longer. No, you're probably not.
Well, everyone thinks that
You're just showing weakness, really.
It's the golden handcuff world too. Where you have your job that's paying you X amount a year. It's a healthy pay, and they own you. And people give up their lives for the corporation or whatever company they're working for because they think, oh well, I'm working for this guy. He'll fire me, or I won't get the promotion if I don't reply at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
But it's just boundaries. It's funny because if you were to look at that in any other relationship,
same with the boss.
In a romantic relationship, if there's not certain boundaries, whatever that may be, friendships, it's not good. But in work relationships, sometimes we just let it get plowed over.
Yeah.
But it's most of the time it's interesting because it's the things that you don't do that create the boundary.
Yeah.
So it's the not responding.
Right, you don't have to say, sorry, it's 9:00, I'm not going to respond. You just don't respond. And then in the morning, you respond when it's 9, 10 o'clock, whatever.
Just getting back to this, jumping in, catching up on things this morning. You can talk about it a different way.
Exactly.
And you never have to say sorry. You just say patience.
Exactly. You've learned that thing too, yeah.
It's a whole little corporate
That's the one I'm writing emails. I'm like, I'll say something like, I'm sorry that I was late for the call today or whatever. And then I go, okay, thanks for your patience.
But sometimes there is moments where you're like, you can say sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Hey, dude, I'm so sorry I'm late.
Yeah.
Like when you're like, I forgot about something. But you absolutely.
Yeah, and it depends on who you are, who you're dealing with and who you're meeting. So, but the concept of when you say I'm sorry versus thanking them for their patience,
big difference.
It's a big difference. And
it's just professional because then it's like it turns the relationship. It's like you say sorry to your friends and your family, and oh, dude, I'm so sorry. Business relationships you have to treat differently. I don't know.
If you're being respectful to them,
yeah,
and they're being respectful to you, then just by saying thank you for your patience, that means
it's respect.
I know that you understand.
Yeah.
That I own my own business, that I'm doing my own things, that things get busy from time to time.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's a whole.
And I think there's a whole psychology behind it. There's a whole thing.
It's it's subtext. So in filmmaking, we like to talk about subtext. What's not said is the thing that's said. So when you watch a really good film, so much happens in a scene in the subtext versus the actual text in the script, right? So it's felt versus said.
Yeah.
Show versus say. Don't show somebody, don't say it, because people want to, come up to their own conclusions to a certain degree.
Dude, I do that too often. I say it instead of showing it.
And it's so easy. It's so easy to do in writing as well. I notice a lot of people will overwrite, over-explain versus letting people fill in and give you. Anyways, it's a whole thing.
Well, but I mean, I think that's you're talking about, and I'm not an expert in any of this, neither one of us is, but I will say that you're talking about things that you've learned as a business owner, dealing with people, real stuff. So stuff that you and I are at the point where we go, okay, well that, saying thanks versus sorry is probably something that somebody else today wrote an email that may be listening to this. Today they wrote an email that said, I'm sorry for being late. that's okay to say. You don't have to be worried about it, but like learn to grow as a business owner and learning to go, okay, I got to stop myself from saying that because I know that 50, 75% or whatever, people are going to subconsciously start to think negatively about me. Oh, this guy's always late. Oh, says he's sorry. Yeah, he should be sorry. Versus thank you, Oh, okay. I heard another one say, would you be opposed? So
It's letting
instead
people
of saying,
decide.
instead of saying like, let's go do this, or are you okay if we go do this? You say, would you be opposed to meeting with me for 15 minutes?
No, I'm not.
No, I'm not opposed.
Yeah, I'm not opposed. So
I'm
that
not
means
opposed
I'm
to
open.
it. Yeah, so I guess I'm open to it.
Would you be opposed to going on a date with me? Same idea. No, possibly not.
Yeah, maybe I'm married, but maybe you got some ladies out there.
It's more.
But yes, it's the turn. I think it really makes a difference. So I think there's interesting things that you pick up on as a business owner that maybe we're not even doing a great job communicating to people to help, but like it's stuff that you go, this is sort of in my arsenal, my repertoire of how I like talk to my clients. How do I interact with them? And now I know that I can keep them longer. I can, increase the lifetime value of that client. I can get them to spend more money with me or whatever because I'm doing a good job for them. And I'm also communicating and not making those silly little mistakes that can really get you as a small.
Just dialing yourself in, as I say. You're just dialing it in.
Yeah.
Just dialing your communication. Dialing it in. Because it's always just like constant refinement. Like,
yeah.
Just a little bit better. It's like the 1% better every day kind of idea. It's just like, and that going back to that like sorry versus patience, I think that there's a balance that needs to be had because I think that if you do have humility into the mistakes
it's okay
that you
to
have,
say
where you feel like you literally did show up late to a meeting that was your leading, or it's also disrespectful towards the people on the meeting when the person shows up 15 minutes late and they don't say sorry and they just roll in like, oh, I can show up late. I think that's very disrespectful to the rest of the team.
There's got to be the time when when you have to take responsibility for
you're
it.
like, what a jerk, dude. We're all just hanging out waiting for you. You think you can just be a high roller rolling in like this.
Yeah.
BS.
Right. There are times when you need to be able to own up to it.
Yeah.
And that's more important than trying to go like, thanks for your patience.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't work.
No.
Yeah.
Just be the humble person in the room. Oh, what do I know?
No, there's been times when you sort of have to go down that patient path with a client, even though you don't think that you need to, or you shouldn't be responsible to, because they're having a bad day or they're pissed off or they're whatever, So what are you doing now? Because you and I have been talking a little bit about like, how does video change today? You've got tools out there where you can put this long form content, like we'll probably be able to put it into a tool and it will do all the captions for us and it will cut the best clips and it will get it ready for reels and stories and all that kind of stuff. Video specifically, I would say, has probably changed more in a lot of ways than anything else, at least in the way that it's produced and how it's produced for stuff. You have to make stuff for short form content now, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, what do you think right now? Because a lot of your videos, I know, a lot of like the bread and butter for a lot of folks is the short, like commercial teaser promo video type stuff.
People don't read.
But what do we need now?
People do not read. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll start that with this. People do not read. Content is
People are illiterate.
Here's the thing. I almost view text as it's what the internet needs.
It's like secondary.
It's what the internet needs to talk, right? Like the internet,
Like the
Chat
computer,
GPT
like AI.
needs text.
Yes.
So Google needs text.
Not for long though.
True, but you know what I'm saying.
I know
Like
what you're
in
saying.
order to like SEO, what do I know about this? But I know that like in order
know it,
you
that's
got to
right.
talk,
Yeah.
you got to put the copy on the site. So that's essential. But when it comes to video, people don't watch past 3 seconds.
Right.
So you basically have like 8 seconds max, and if it's good, you have like 8 seconds. Unless you're just gonna pay them. It's always funny to me because stuff I'm working on is usually let's get the ad, and then we'll basically pre-roll on a YouTube. And so we'll force them to watch 15 seconds because they
Right.
want to watch the free content
Because
on
they
the
don't
other
have
side.
the free like,
They want to watch the
Yeah.
YouTube video of the guy taking the adventure, the guy building a cabin, whatever that content
fixing
is.
tire
fixing a
or whatever.
truck. Yeah. So they're like, fine. They want to watch that? We'll pay them. We'll pay
Yeah.
to have them watch 15 seconds. And as a viewer, you're like, get me through this. Get me through this.
Or you turn your phone around, you just checked out,
Or
you're doing something else.
buy YouTube Premium like me.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way I
$18 a month.
could, yeah. I don't do
So,
that.
okay, back to you were saying about times are changing.
Yes, yeah. In your industry, things
So
are changing, I think, big time.
What I've said recently, I'm like, as I've pitched projects to clients, is trailers have trailers before. There's a trailer before the trailer now.
Okay.
As you watch a trailer, it just comes up on your YouTube feed. There's a 6-second trailer of the trailer, and then they say trailer starts now. And then they're like, oh, is it interesting enough for me to keep watching, and who's the face in the movie? Mm-hmm. And so I try to do an edit that we're working on. It really depends on where it's posted. Mm-hmm. But if we're trying to get clicks and views and to get attention, what is the first 6 seconds? What is the first 8 seconds? What's the first 3 seconds?
Yeah.
And how exciting and quick cuts and big.
You have to grab them.
You got to grab them. You got to stop the scroll within the first 8 seconds. And I say it's probably
it's less than that, but yeah.
Important part. But other films that we're working on are like, it's documentary stuff. You're not buying eyes. You're just played in different formats, and people are already pre-invested. They want to learn about a product. They're willing to watch a 2-minute film.
Right.
So not everything nowadays is that, but if your strategy is, stop the scroll on Instagram to sell a product, it's basically 8 seconds.
Right. Right. Do you think that the demand has gone mostly towards that kind of content for you? Like, is there less of a demand? I feel like I've heard from other people, not just you, that like the world of video ads and promos like that has sort of died down some because people are switching. They go, actually, my ad spend is more effective when I have that short form content versus going and spending this money on a promo video.
Literally, we see deliverables from an agency now, and they're more about give me 15-second ads or 3-second ads or a little GIF animation. It's about content and how much we can get out of a shoot.
Yeah.
Than it is about like making some hero film. Mm-hmm. But that's usually when we're talking about product forward release of a product.
Right.
Depends upon like the shoot we did in Africa was docu stuff, so it's played inside of an audience.
Yes.
That already is captivated. They're sitting there. They're trying to raise money with the films, so we're not worried about the first 8 seconds. It's more of like, is it emotional? Can we tell the story? Can we convince them in 10 minutes, 5 minutes? So that's the stuff I honestly enjoy longer, where I have at least 90 seconds to tell a story.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I like that.
But, I mean,
and those won't ever go away.
That's never going to go.
Yeah.
That's authenticity at its finest. And that's where I think filmmaking shines, is how you can change somebody's opinion and or their emotions. Mm-hmm. No other medium can do this. Mm-hmm. Text, sure, good luck, especially in today's world. But it's expected. Now, everyone expects a video on a site. And if you don't have a video on your website for your brand, and it's not, and people know what quality is too. Mm-hmm. And so if they see a cheaply done film, they're like, oh, it must be a cheap company. And so I'm seeing everyone has to keep leveling up in order to stay relevant.
And I find it interesting.
Clients, so they take over themselves and they're like, oh, we're just going to go internal with things. And, they may be selling the same amount of products. I don't understand. I don't always see the back end of things.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I just see the content just tank.
Yeah. Well, so I've been in an interesting journey over the last 5 or 6 years because I've seen campaigns and ads work that look like total crap.
Yeah, exactly. And they work.
Maybe they even have spelling mistakes. I've seen spelling mistakes. I've seen
human error.
There is something to that. I'm not even kidding you. There has been certain times when I go, it says eyeball and there's whatever, it says it misspelled a word or the image is getting cut off in a weird way. And you go, that's not supposed to be that way. I designed it differently. The designer created the wrong format, so it's not looking quite right, or they forgot to do the right, file size or whatever. And so it's not looking right, but it's performing better than anything I've ran in the last 6 months. And it hurts my feelings.
No, it hurts my feelings, Preston. It hurts my feelings when I see
I think it hurts your feelings more than mine. But I will say that learning that, real quick, and then I want to get to
no, for sure.
Learning that from my standpoint, and we've had discussions about this before, sometimes that crappy looking creative performs better than anything else. And so when I'm talking to a client and they go, "Oh, that doesn't look good. That's not pretty, whatever." I go, "Hey man, that's fine, but like I'm recommending that we run this one and test it. And if it performs better, great. If it doesn't, no big deal." But a lot of business owners go, "Well, it's not going to represent me well. I don't want to do it," you know? And I get that to
But
to a
honestly,
certain
and
point.
I respect when somebody is wanting a certain level.
But there's data that proves sometimes
Oh,
differently.
son of a gun, you data people. You're the people that we hate in filmmaking. But I will say, all
love you,
creatives
man.
kind of hate data.
Yeah.
Because we just want to make art.
Yes.
Commercial filmmaking is not really art, but at its finest, it's art. But in today's world, it's just disposable content. But I'll say
That is true. Everything's disposable. We talked about the
Everything's
products. We were
disposable.
setting stuff up. We were like, this light, this, that, and the other is just like, comes from China. It's disposable. Like back in the day, you used to go get a product like a freaking lawnmower or whatever. Like you could replace all the parts yourself. You could, do everything because it was meant to last you 5, 10 years. Now you get a lawnmower every year or whatever, right? Like
dishwasher breaks every 2 years. You got to buy a new one.
it's just different.
You know,
It's
fix
just
them.
totally different than it used to be.
Disposable.
Back in the
this
good old
is
days.
what was he saying about the content? You're saying about content, short form.
Crappy
So-
stuff
crappy
works
stuff.
well.
Yeah, but so we say that it sounds like a general statement. Oh, the crappiest stuff works well. It really
No.
depends upon your
It's
brand.
not always
but
the case,
I
yeah.
will say, but this is where I was going at. Everything now is driving towards social. Video is social.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where do we hear about things? Oh, we saw it on Instagram. We saw it on Facebook.
Yeah.
We saw it on TikTok. And that's kind of a depressing place to be as a filmmaker, where you're like, all my stuff is just getting viewed on a phone.
Yeah.
This really sucks. And I like have huge speakers and I'm like meant for cinema, but so I try to keep a little diversified where I'm like, we're not doing all just short form stuff.
But there's still the market for the high quality people who are
yep.
focused on that stuff. I mean, it's just a little bit different of a lifestyle people are living these days where it's that quick thing on your phone where, I mean, I don't know. I would be curious to find out like how many times people are just watching TV shows in bed on their phone rather than, going to the TV anymore or whatever. It's just
So
it's
much
just
is
like
mobile. And it's only gonna
still
get more.
great
It's only gonna
quality.
get more.
It's, if I put it real close,
Well,
it's
and now we can edit videos on our phones too. And so creators think about the people that don't even own a laptop nowadays.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, I have an iPhone. You're like, oh, it's good enough. You run your whole business on an iPhone now. Mm-hmm. It's like so much can happen.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Anyways,
Interesting.
filmmaking.
So-
what about next?
So let's talk about. Well, we were getting into sort of I think what a lot of people are going to be interested in because a lot of people in our community. I mean, we're talking about digital marketing agencies, internal marketing teams that are trying to streamline their approval processes and workflows.
Yeah, that's huge.
And we're talking about even so a lot of businesses that have any kind of internal marketing team. A lot of them are going to, a lot of the companies that we're talking to are going to look at you and they're going to go, oh man, he makes this beautiful art and people pay him for his art, right? And we sort of feel like digital marketers, at least I'm speaking for digital marketers, I sort of feel like sometimes it's like, man, I have to be held to the performance of something.
You freaking data people.
And it needs to look pretty.
Yeah.
Because somebody wants to say it looks good, it represents my brand, everything's good to go. But also at the end of the day, if they're paying me money, and spending money with Facebook ads or Instagram or whatever, they need to know that it's returning positive ad spend for them. The ROAS is good. So I think it's interesting, and you're sort of starting to understand that as well with your business, and you're kind of going, okay, I need to sort of focus more on leads and generating new business and sort of getting into that sort of side of things for your business because of the changes in the environment for video, right?
Yeah, my thing is, I've said this for years, but I'm now seeing, I'm like, we used to make, and it will still happen, client hires you for a video, it's just and it becomes a brick. I'm like, oh, we just made them a brick. But where I see
They
the
don't push
perfect
it. They
blend,
don't cut it. They don't do anything.
it just sits on our YouTube, and I'm like, you guys spent like $80,000 in this video, and it has 250 plays.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to do this for
Wow.
people.
Yikes.
But here is, I think the future is the blend of what you guys are doing and then what I do, and we can kind of create like a mega force because nowadays you can't. Nowadays, it sounds like an 80-year-old man. I feel like my father.
It's just,
Nowadays, I guess it's just what happens.
things
as we get older.
things are changing. Things are
Times are
changing fast.
But then like a Gen Z will watch this and they'll be like,
They're like,
what do you
those
mean
guys
nowadays. It's all we know
old.
is nowadays.
Yeah.
But the blend of you have to put digital marketing dollars behind something unless you have a built-in audience. And work with brands with built-in audiences, which we did a thing with Patron earlier this year. Yeah, they have a huge built-in audience, but they still put digital dollars.
Yes.
They're putting these digital
Digital
dollars in things.
That's what it is.
Yeah, but they're still putting
Ad spend, yeah.
ad spends behind it. But it's really cool. We did this campaign last year for the state of Nevada. Not my favorite work. It's not.
Okay.
We're not going to promote this work as
Yeah,
my favorite.
yeah.
Okay. So we partnered with this digital marketing firm, and they, I think we spent like 50 grand. And we pushed the dial for them as a result of that because we got eyes on something that would have never gotten eyes on, but we bought the eyes,
Right.
all the eyes.
Right.
And that's the difference. And as a result
But
of
also,
that,
that's gets it
massive
started.
success.
That gets it started.
Massive success. When something didn't have any notice, and this was like a PSA to stay out of abandoned mines, some simple thing.
Really?
Okay, but
Yeah,
I'm just
interesting.
using it as an example
Yeah.
where now I'm seeing the strategy
Yes.
moving forward, especially working with direct client relationships, is making sure that they either have a digital marketing strategy in place or they understand exactly what they're spending money on and where they're putting it, because it's not going to go viral. I'm not Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's just not going to happen. But the cool thing is what you guys are doing combined with what I can do, it's actually kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's like
That,
insane.
there's a sweet spot right there
insane.
in the middle. And I think people too, like, are getting into, we talked about like Lex Friedman and that podcast interview he did with Mark Zuckerberg, the old Zucky Zuck. And like, you know, I think the quality of that in engagement that they had together that was digital through AI is not too far along for us all. I think we're pretty close to being able to get on our phones and scan your faces and do the same thing. If you haven't seen that, go. You don't have to watch the whole thing, but just go look at that podcast because you might not even be able to tell if it's the real person versus the person in the thing. And I think it's going to be so high quality in sort of that world. This would be an interesting topic. We probably don't have time to talk about now this whole thing, but like, what is it going to look like when you're making videos for Meta, inside Meta, that you're actually creating content?
We're not going there.
Inside
Meta. We're going to
Meta.
stay out of Meta.
We'll stay out of Meta for now, but it's going to happen.
You know what? They're going to want realism. And I'll just stay real. I'll be like, yo, just
You like stay in the real life. Stay in the real
If
world.
you guys want to use my real footage in the digital universe, I recommend just going outside.
Okay, so did you hear about, I think I shared this with you, Meta paid, like, I think it was one of the Kardashians.
One of the oh yes,
Mr. Beast.
$4 million or something.
Whatever. It was like, like $6 million for like 6 hours of their time.
Like cheap for
and
that.
it was basically all they did was they scanned their faces. They had them probably say certain things, and they basically built an AI of that person who is operates its own Instagram account.
What are we doing? Why don't we just
That allows people to go talk to this person as if it were talking to them. So you can go speak to your your favorite celebrity, and it responds to you like it's a real person.
I'm good. I'm good. This is where I'm like,
I thought it was a fake article.
Into the woods.
I thought it was a fake article.
Right, it does.
Because why would Mr. Beast? Why would one of the Kardashians want to do that? It seems like they would sort of see the writing on the wall, which is like, they could just replace you. Like, why do they need you anymore if they can get to the point where they can create content like that?
Here's the thing. This is just my opinion, but I think it's true. People know it's real and they know it's fake.
Yeah.
And they see an AI image and guess what they do? No.
There's something wrong.
Guess what they're like? It's the same thing of like the currency. Like you look at like a fake dollar bill, like they say like how
You
to
can feel it,
recognize
right? Like, yeah.
is because you look at what's real, and then you see the fake one, and the only reason that people can tell it's a fake one is because they've looked
They're
at the real
so
one
used to
all
handling
day.
and dealing with, and yeah,
And they're
yeah,
like, wait,
yeah.
it's off.
Right.
Something's off.
Yeah, that's a great
And
example.
I think that people notice care. I've always liked to talk about Apple products. They they literally sell. Apple sells the bevel on an iPhone. Ooh, the new rounded
Oh,
edge.
you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Ooh,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And how they talk about
As
it.
you scroll down their like
in-
mile long
in their videos,
website,
and the light comes over the edge. And literally, the new iPhone 15, they sold the bevel of the phone because they know that people notice. And I think it's the same thing with video. I think it's the same thing with film. Yes, you're going to have the AIs take over, but people are going to know what's real and what's not.
yeah,
And there's always it's the authenticity of real storytelling is always going to win. I don't think it'll ever be replaced.
Yeah.
Because there's that fine line. It's the fine line. We're going to get so close to that fine line. We're going to get so close to it, or people are going to be like, oh, what? Ooh, ooh. But then when they see real, they're like, yeah, we want that.
it's going to be interesting because I think there is a point where you cross
You see
that
what- you know what I'm
line
saying?
down the
You know what I'm
road.
saying?
But yes, I agree with you 100% that there's something in us that can sense what's off
Well,
with
think
something.
think about
right?
even this tree in the room. From afar, it looks like an olive tree. Mm-hmm. But you get up closer, you're like, oh, it's not an olive tree. It's fake.
It's not fake. What are you talking about? My olive tree is not fake. Yeah,
But
no,
I use it as
I
an
understand
example
what you're
of
saying.
like humans have gone after. We've tried to recreate what's real. Right? We've modeled what's real, but it's never. There's still not a living organism.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that that's always going to, and it's the same thing like, I think it was Pixar, and I don't know the whole story, but it's roughly, the thing that they focused on, their characters, was the eyes. And they figured out how to make them superhuman looking. And then the rest of the characters.
It's just kind of
because the eyes are
falls
the window
in,
to your
yeah.
soul. And it's also an example where like all they did is focus on making the eye exactly like a human eye. And now people can relate with the character.
and somehow blend that with the
Yeah,
dog or whatever it
exactly.
is, but
that
it's
eyeball
human
is
based,
just
so you have that connection.
wild.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing for business owners to think about. I think you bring up a great point for everybody out there, which is that AI can be a useful tool to help you with a lot of things, but there's always going to be an authenticity that is lacking with an AI tool that you're always going to have. And that's one of the reasons that Approved Social is so I like about what we're building, of course,
Yeah,
so much
it's
is
super
that
cool.
like we have like AI is taking over everybody. It's a buzzword. Like everybody wants to invest
2023.
in
We didn't
AI.
even
If
know
you don't
what
have a
happened.
tool that doesn't have an AI, you're like not a cool thing, right? But the deal is AI cannot replace a human's interaction
Still needs its
and
own.
approval
Until it
of
doesn't.
something.
Until it doesn't.
Until it decides it doesn't, and then we're screwed. But for the ability to go, hey, this AI created the ad image, it wrote the copy, it built the ad campaign, and the only thing that it can't really do, unless you just give it carte blanche to do, is approve what it created. So even today, you get on ChatGPT and you say, go do these things for me. It comes back to you and it says, do you like this?
Yeah.
And you go, yeah, I like it. Or no, make these edits, right? So there's an approval thing that happens. So for us, what we've built is this
Super cool. It's never gonna go out of
ecosystem that
style.
will never be able to be replaced. So while all these AI companies are coming and going, and a lot of them are just wrapping ChatGPT,
They still need you.
they're going to use us for that. So I think that it's important to be able to use AI for the right things, but realize there's an authenticity thing. There's always going to be a human element involved. I will say that there's a lot of people out there listening probably who go, I am a digital marketer and I'm going to push back on this guy because there's law, like the law of large, everybody says the law of large numbers, right? When you're in my world, the digital marketing world, everybody's like, oh, well, if I get 1 million people to view this thing and I get 5%, then, here's what here's what I'm going to get, right?
Right.
Which is
It's
great.
just
It's
what
total
numbers
math. It's math. It's like, your conversion rates, your lifetime value, your CAC, whatever. You can calculate your ROI for your campaigns. But, so they're going to say, well, if I can use an AI that can leverage not my like leverages somebody else's free time, basically some device's time or code,
Yeah.
then I can actually have a lower conversion rate and still be happy because I don't care. Like I'm not dealing with those people. Like
see.
I'm just like, even if
It's like another person
even though a
working
lot of
for
people are like,
free.
oh, I don't like that, blah, blah, blah. There's still a 2% that are converting and I don't have to do a thing. And I think there's going to be value in that too. And I think there's just sort of a different strategy that you got to take if you're a digital marketer. You're either going to be pumping out a lot of stuff or you're and doing a sales bot that maybe sounds like a real person. You know, there's a tool out there called Air dot whatever AI or something, and they actually have an AI that will have a long conversation with you and literally sell you, and it has pauses, and it even says things like, "Hey, if there's a delay, just know that we're having some weird phone system issues." Because it needs time to process. So it's setting itself up with this opportunity to work. But people know, and I talk to it. It sounds pretty freaking real, but it's also got that element to it. You go, am I being scammed somehow? Like somehow I know I'm being
today
scammed.
was an example. I was talking to DJI. I need to get a new drone, and I chat with the little chat robot on the website, and I'm like, oh, nowadays, here we go again. I'm like, used to be a human on the other end, but I have no idea anymore because I'm like, they're like, what happened to your drone? I'm like, crashed in the middle of Africa, and they're like, and so I'm like, am I talking to an AI, which it interacts with you just like another human would? And I'm like, probably is. But does it even matter? That's the thing. Is so many of those systems. No, it doesn't
No,
matter.
for
And
most of the stuff, it doesn't matter.
Why would you want a human on the other end if it already knows the systems of the company and it can just read the systems of the company?
It's all you need.
It's just because you got to give it text to know what's up there.
It goes back to the text as a long circle.
But I just find it interesting because as a computer, because what is ChatGPT? It just scoured the internet of its text and its knowledge and knows everything because it's read everything that's ever existed.
How often do you use it?
Every day.
Do you use it like for every project?
Every project, every day.
Every email?
Yep. Well, not really, but actually,
a lot of them, right?
What I found actually as better. Grammarly has an AI function right now.
Oh.
And so a lot of the times, if I'm writing like an email that needs to be like proofread multiple times, it's like a larger email. You know, you spend time on it. You want to make sure your grammar's right. You go back and forth, back and forth. Well, I'll feed that into ChatGPT sometimes, and it just sounds like a computer.
Yeah.
But Grammarly fixes the new AI feature.
Tone and stuff.
It adjusts it and fixes, like I can give it a first
It
draft.
knows
and I'm
about
like,
you.
this is actually
It knows
great.
about you.
This
And you
is
can
way
train ChatGPT to do those kind of things, but it's kind of a pain in the butt.
But
it's not a good way to do it yet.
Literally, it doesn't try to rewrite it for you. Like ChatGPT will probably just try to like give you a whole new draft.
Yeah.
But here's what
I hate when it does that.
yeah, you're like, no, dude, I just
just
needed
this
you to
slight
fix
change.
me. I just wanted to make sure the grammar was right, not like every other word sounded like a computer.
One that'll really kill you if you ever have to write a post within a certain number of characters and it writes something that's like 500 characters too long and you go, hey, will you remove 500 characters from this thing? And then it goes to like 100 characters.
It chops
It
it
just
in,
does
like,
the whole thing wrong, you know? And it's like, fuck.
But here's what I use it for. I use it for ideas. And I use it to write treatments. So I'll write a draft for the treatment. It's not writing my ideas for me. But then I'll just like fix this, make this sound better.
That's what I do
this.
too. Yeah.
And guess what? It's corporate copy. No one reads it.
Yeah.
And if they do read it, which I hope that they do, which that's a whole other discussion. I need to get into video treatments, not text treatments.
Yeah.
But that's another discussion for another day.
The next podcast.
Well, that's just like pitching and.
Yeah.
But I have it give me ideas. I'm like, give me 5 ideas for X, Y, and Z. And then it'll help me like, oh, I like that word better. Or like, give me an alternative idea for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super specific niche things. It's not like doing my business for me.
Yeah, I use it for a lot of the same things. Like, I wrote this email and I want you to improve it. Or can you add a couple sections about this, that, and the other? I will say the addition to Bing has been a huge, it definitely makes a big difference because I can say, I'm a digital marketer and I got this client that wants me to do an SEO, thing for them. Go look at their website, go find their top 5 competitors.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
Tell me the strengths and weaknesses of their SEO, right? And it gets you 50, 60% there, and then you ask it some more questions, maybe you get it 60, 70%, and then you polish it yourself. You're giving it the guidelines, you're giving it the where, how to work and how to work inside of your mind and your sort of concept, but then you're just like any other employee, you're telling it what to do and it's going off and doing it for you just really fast. But then I also use it a lot for just like, I'm not the best at grammar or spelling, so it's like I want to polish something up real quick. Exactly. It's my words. It's just polish it up and let's send it to the client.
Grammarly is actually the AI function. I just tried it the other day. It beats ChatGPT.
Does it? Well, that's what it's made for. That's one thing.
It's actually. I'm like, actually, this is better at what it's for. So.
And most of these tools are just wrapping ChatGPT. I mean, they basically are ChatGPT.
But it's kind of great though, because what we're seeing is like I'm seeing ChatGPT's limitations on certain things, where like it sounds like a robot sometimes, blah blah blah. But it is a huge tool. It's like the Google, obviously, but like now I'm like Grammarly. This is great. Like you guys are already on the game.
Yeah.
But I will say ChatGPT has saved me days of time already.
Oh yeah.
It used to take me 2 days to write a treatment. I can do it in a day.
Wow.
Because I can write twice as fast now with ChatGPT. I can sit down in the morning, have a rough idea of what I need to write for the day, and have it done in the afternoon. And it used to take me 2 days to write.
Yeah.
Insane.
Well, and here's the thing that you're not thinking about too, which is you've just figured out, like, if you, like, I would encourage you and the other business owners I talk to, people are just sort of willy-nilly using ChatGPT. Take the prompts that you've learned that are working for you to write a script and put those into a document that's like a master document of all the prompts that you use that work.
Yeah, it's these prompt things.
Because if you can learn to
talk to it.
Well, yeah, but also just copying and pasting, because you don't have to do it every single time.
I see.
You don't have to train it every single time.
So this is the thing. I haven't gotten. There's a bunch of documents out there that are like.
I'm not like perfect at it, but I just
Yeah. Okay. That's my other level of it is figuring out how to. Because usually I'm just like make this sound better, give you 5 ideas, shorten this. But I did have it write my ebook the other day. And that blew my mind.
Yes.
That blew my mind. When it was smarter than me, I was like, holy heck, this is insane.
Oh, it's smarter than you, buddy.
And I was like, no, I know, but it was more of like that I watched it. I was like, and I'm learning from this thing.
I've written a couple ebooks too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to do.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, chapter 1, go. Boom. Chapter 2, go.
Yeah. Did it do the thing? It's like, well, writing an ebook is very complicated and you should really do it.
It was funny because it didn't want to give it to me right away.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't really think this is too complicated.
Yeah, it was like too big of a task. And I was like, I think I can have you do this. And then sure enough, I was like, oh my gosh, you just wrote chapter 1.
Yes.
Then I was like, write chapter 2. And then I give it enough. And I was like,
exact same thing. Because I was like, write the whole book for me. And I said, ask me the questions you need. So I give you the information you need to write this ebook. And it goes, sure, here's all these questions. I filled it all out. And it goes, really, it's too complicated to give you this whole ebook. And I go, well, let's just write 1 chapter at a time. Let's see what happens. So
just wait.
12 chapters later, I'm done very quickly. It's still got all the content.
No one's going to read it. So, that's not what it's about. It's about an email address.
Thank you, Chris.
But here's where it's going to get crazy. Because we talk about AI, this sounds like something that you're going to listen to in like 5 years or probably even a year and be like,
oh man,
oh my gosh, what antiquated systems. We sound like making a tube TV or a flat screen TV in the 70s. It's like
we'll see if the AI gods let us out of our houses at that time.
But when you just talk to it for 5 minutes, and so it gets your face, it scans your face, it gets your personality, gets your tone of voice, and I haven't tried this yet, but people are already producing content. Then you just give it a script, and it'll take your ebook, which is actually what I need to preach on this.
Yes,
I need to write my treatments and then just film my face in AI, and then tell the computer to give it back to me. Like put my face in AI and then just have them
just like act it out or something.
Yeah. Well, you know about this? So basically, there's software right now, and I don't even know it. It's called Instagram Feed at 8 p.m.
Okay.
I'm just saying like this. You see the sound.
Okay. Yeah.
You give it your face. You talk to it for 5 minutes. It understands your voice. It sees your tone and then you can feed it text. And then it'll look and sound exactly like you. So you can do an e-course, but your script can be written by ChatGPT. You don't even have to do it.
Oh, interesting.
So it just takes your AI image.
What tool is it? Do you know what the name
We
of it
can
is?
Google it and find
Okay, let's
it.
find it later. We'll ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly.
I do that all the time.
Is though,
I do it all the time.
it's not current though, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it is.
Now it is. I thought it was
Bing.
certain things.
It's powered by Bing now. If you have the upgraded
Okay.
ChatGPT
It's
4 or whatever it
it's
is, yeah, I pay for it. It's not like that bad, and it's
Right.
but
But
there's
you know what I'm saying? I think that there was
it wasn't live, but it is now.
there was one. I think maybe I just used 3.5.
So like you definitely need to upgrade. Like I'm telling you, like tonight you're gonna go upgrade, and it's not.
Well,
it's
I had it for a second. I was like, do I even need this?
I don't need it. Anyways, well, Chris, we've talked for a while now.
Well, we're the next Joe Rogan podcast.
And we've got
I don't
a
even
lot
know
of
if
great
we're
content.
Do we need to keep talking? We're good.
Well, I just wanted to ask if there's anything else that you want to sort of plug or talk about before we jump off the call or the podcast, because I think there's a lot of people out there who might actually want a promo video right now, or they might have a client that has something like that. I cannot recommend him enough, but like tell them where should people to go.
I think it just maybe to add to that on what we're seeing a lot is especially with people, they just need so much content. So it's about how much can we get out of a shoot. And so for every job that we're working on that I'm like, you guys just need a bunch of stuff, it's just trying to get creative in how we approach the creative. So
yeah,
and it costs money to level up. It's not cheap, and you get what you pay for. You can go work with a kid that's going to go shoot your little video, and he's going to do a fine job.
yeah,
He'll get the job done, but it's going to look like that, versus hiring somebody that's been doing it for a second. There's a little bit of wisdom,
just
in
a
the
minute or
process.
two.
Just a minute.
Yeah, a few minutes.
And I'm not saying I'm some pro. I've just been down the lane a little bit.
Yeah,
And I'm constantly learning and growing. But it's, I wrote something down last night. I was like, it's about staying curious.
Staying curious. I like that.
Okay?
Yeah.
And at least I think that could be in every business. Where people feel burnt out.
Yeah,
They
you're no longer
lose their
curious.
curiosity.
You don't
They're
care.
like, we don't even
Yeah.
care anymore.
Yeah.
And it's staying curious. That's the key thing that at least keeps me going.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh, there's always something new on the
Yeah.
horizon. There's always a new way
Keeping
to
it
do it.
new
But
and
that's
different,
the
yeah.
thing is filmmaking, and especially in the digital space that we're in, marketing, it's constantly evolving and changing. For just some traditional industry, a plumber is not really having to stay curious because he knows how to.
There's
The laws are there.
Incremental
The laws of the
improvements
universe
there,
have
yeah.
been set.
yeah.
Water flows.
Yes.
We have to stop it from flowing.
And thank God for them.
But inside of being creative, inside of digital marketing, you have to stay curious. How can I figure out how to reach a new customer? What's a new strategy that we can implement? How do we think about something differently? And as I like to say, it's like, how can we think unexpectedly? How can we, in every project I take on, it's always like, how can we change this up? What has been seen before? What has been seen, but how can we maybe offer this to this client in an unexpected way?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's storytelling.
Storytelling,
It's storytelling. And I think
age-old caveman vibes. It's just now in the digital world, which
Yeah.
is like kind of sad because I feel like it's the good stories rise to the top. Just like anything, good stuff rises to the top.
it still does. It still
But
does.
now you just have to pay for it.
But I think like for anybody out there who's going to go hire somebody, and I've done this before, and I know a lot of people have done this before. You're hiring somebody who is recommended to you, or is somebody you've seen do really good, pretty things. But from a digital marketing standpoint, people listening,
Collabs.
they're thinking about like someone like you who understands and has already acknowledged, hey guys, we can make really great content, but we can also make it with the understanding that we want to be able to utilize all of it for short form content, all of it for reels and stories. And how do you do that? And I think working with somebody like you, I'm gonna stop pitching you.
But you're removing
Is somebody that has, it doesn't have to be you. I'm just saying working with somebody who has that understanding, who is young enough to want to do that, is something that anybody who's out there hiring somebody needs to focus on.
And
Because they're just going to get delivered a 60-second.
Yeah, let me add to this. In my opinion, you have to, if somebody's just going to sell you a video, unless you need it for a thing. Like sometimes you'll need a video
Yeah.
for a trade show, and you're like, I need to put it
An
behind my booth,
event, a gala,
whatever that may be,
whatever,
which
yeah.
is fine. It's like great. Well, this is a very specific thing. We're going to spend a bunch of money on this event, gala, whatever you want to call it. That's we don't need digital eyes on it. We just need to have an image. We need to put our brand out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the power moving forward in film is partnerships. It's like removing the traditional advertising agency where you got your creative directors and they're making all this stuff, working with kind of a hybrid production company that has a relationship with the digital marketing firm.
Yeah.
That you have that conversation before where how can we be working together as we make our commercials, promos, whatever, that you guys have a placement for it to actually move the dial, because it's about an ROI. Like you're not going to want to spend $100,000 with me. You will want to spend $100,000 with me.
Which you would
if you know,
if you want to hire this guy. You're
Yeah,
going to
if-
spend
yeah, if
about
you-
that, you know. But
if you're going to work with me, you're going to. I want to make sure that the money you spend is also helps your business as well. Where working with digital marketing firm to actually get eyes on the content is just as important.
right, like you said
can't just hire
earlier,
me
it's
without
you
you.
don't want to. What did you call it? Like a brick video
Yeah,
or
you don't wanna
something,
make a
where
brick.
it's just
You gotta have a partnership.
sitting on a website somewhere where they're not even pushing paid traffic because they're pushing it to a landing page that's a better converter than their homepage. But for whatever reason, they want to have a pretty promo video. I've made that mistake in the past with companies that I worked with, and I've been like, I need a pretty video, and then turns out that doesn't drive the dollars that the short form video content does, or whatever. So understanding that. Well, let's wrap it up here, but I want to mention one quick thing before as we do this, which is that Chris is a business owner who has employees and works with a lot of different folks, and you have had to sort of understand the landscape of changed in digital as well, which is you're creating a new website that's more focused on lead generation. You're creating case studies so that you can generate emails, and you're doing other
Ebook. I'm starting
lead
an ebook
magnets
thing,
like
yeah.
ebooks and other things so that you're attracting other people. We talked about maybe starting a podcast for you. Certain things because you're seeing the handwriting on the wall, and that's saying it's harder to get those same deals that were out there before for that kind of stuff that you want. And so having an acquisition channel, there's a lot of businesses also out there who go, I need to do the same thing. I need to get away from just getting views and getting pretty stuff to going, how do I convert to emails? How do I get my email list growth? How do I,
years ago?
because then it does come back to sort of the law of large numbers or whatever you want to call it, where you go, I've got 10,000 people in my email list, and I know that every month one of those people needs something done. And so now I'm talking to them, and they go, "Oh yeah, I remember Preston. Like I'll go do work with him again, you know, or whatever." So
It's top of mind.
you stay on top of mind, but you have to do it and invest in it. So if you're out there and you have your own business, start now. You can start by getting Approved Social. You can implement that into your business. You can get a better strategy. You can start using some AI that we talked about before. But you can also just start to, put a plan together and implement it. You said one person a day or whatever it is. It's like
1%,
incrementally getting better every day and improvement. That's what we're going to try to talk about here on the podcast. Chris, thank you for your time, man. Appreciate you coming down.
Thank you.
And we'll see you more soon, buddy.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye.